Hi everyone, Cheltenham Festival closing in as we know, but you honestly will not get a better weekend between now and then. 4 racing, Saturday and Sunday, both packed. I'm joined by Kieran Clark, one of our younger analysts who's just making his transition up to the reporting stage of late. And we've got an amazing day's racing on Sunday, of course. The rerouted Newbury meeting, the Betfair Hurdle's been salvaged along with other great races. And Saturday more than holds its own as well. So it really is a weekend to savour. And because it covers 2 days, we'll be giving a tip each per day. And I'll hand over to Kieran for the first of those. Kieran, what have you got for us?
So I think we'll start with the Reynoldstown on Saturday. I got quite a strong fancy in this town, and that's the Oliver Sherwood trained Severano, who made a really good start to his chasing career when he won his first 2 starts in handicaps at Sandown and Exeter in totally contrasting fashion. The Sandown race, there was still plenty in contention, turning for home, and he got the better in a tight finish. And the Exeter race couldn't have been more different. It was a real punishing event. There was only 3 of the 7 that finished, and I think you can excuse his run next time out in a competitive novice handicap at Newbury. It was only 25 days later. I don't think that the Exeter run, he was truly over that. I think it still left some kind of a mark on him, and he made a slight mistake at the first, which put him around the back of the field in a slowly run event as well. So I don't think he was ideally placed. That was his 3rd run in only 7 weeks as well, and he's got a terrific record when he's fresh. He's been given a 7 to 8 week break here, and I definitely think he'll stay the 3 miles, and I think he's got a very, very good chance of winning in what looks an open Reynoldstown. It's competitive, but it's definitely winnable, and I think he'll be up to the task.
Well, his stamina's no concern for Severano. I don't think it is either for mine on Saturday. I'm going to go for that 240 at Haydock, the Grand National Trial. We know what sort of race it will be. It will be survival of the fittest, survival of the strongest stayer. And I'm going to go with Sojourn. But Carlisle the day he announced himself as a potential big player in all these top staying handicaps. He obliterated them that day. He just galloped them into submission. And it's not as if that race didn't work out. Winners came out of it, surprisingly so. There were lots of horses down the field who boosted the form subsequently. And he just kept galloping. It was a pretty freakish display. They then rode him differently at Haydock the other week. I think it was in the Tommy Whittle, and he just didn't perform perhaps to the same standard, but he wasn't at all disgraced. Run down by Sam's Adventure after cruising into things and getting to the front on the Bridle. I thought he was going to win 3 out, but he just got picked off. He'd done a lot of running to get there, and I sort of felt that patient tactics weren't really making the use of his best attributes, which is how strongly he gallops, how well he travels, but also how boldly he jumps. So I'm hoping they go back to forcing tactics tomorrow. And there's a few potentially doubtful stayers in there, including Encar, I think you have to say, won at Ascot. He's still got to prove himself over the extra half a mile. That's not a concern, I don't think, for Sojourn. He looks like he'd stay pretty much any distance, and he was the one for me. And what, of course, will be a real slugfest, but I do think he's well equipped for it. That's Saturday done with. Sunday, Kieran, you're going for one of the most competitive handicaps, and I think I'm going for another, but I'll let you get your certainty out of the way first.
Yeah, the 150, the 3 mile handicap hurdle, like you say, it's ultra competitive, but I think there's a really good horse here in Southfield Harvest. I've been a fan of his for a while now, and although he's only had 4 starts over hurdles, he's shown plenty of promise. I think he's been runner-up on 3 of them, including both starts this season, and he was turned over at short odds at Ascot on his seasonal reappearance, but that's easy to forgive. That turned into a dash up the Ascot straight, and he's a big staying type, and I was quite surprised he managed to go so close at Wincanton last time as well in a Pertemps qualifier, admittedly over 2 mile 5, and that was another modestly run affair in which he rallied all the way up the straight to be beaten only a neck, and he looks a 3 mile staying chaser. He's a really similar ilk to top of the game, really. They've got quite similar career paths to at this stage of their careers. And I think 3 miles, big competitive handicap hurdle, I think this is definitely what he wants. and he's definitely going to get a pace to aim at as well. And whatever he does this year is definitely a bonus. I think he's a chaser to follow next season, but I still think he's got unfinished business this season, and hopefully he can continue that upward curve in, like you say, a really competitive handicap. And I know you've got one for us in the Betfair Hurdle, which is about as competitive handicap as you'll see all season.
Yeah, it's red hot as you'd expect, but even by the normal standards of that race, it just looked freakishly so. You could honestly pick 8 horses, I think, maybe even 10. I don't know. I mean, it is really warm. I could make a case for lows, which is probably not a great betting race for that perspective. I often say the worst betting races are those where you fancy too many in it, and this could be a case in point. But of course, it's very tempting when you're able to back extremely interesting horses at double figure prices, therefore, because the competition's so hot. You see it at Cheltenham every year. You can make a few quid on the week by backing a couple of 25s chances that finish placed in races. And I like the claims of Buzz primarily in that Betfair Hurdle. You might look at it and think, well, off a mark in the 150s, is he closer to his ceiling than a few of those below? Maybe he is, but the claim of Kevin Brogan, who's been a real success story since teaming up with John Joe, takes the ride. I'm not concerned that it's some sort of Nico de Boinville's on the first string Mr. Coffee. I think there's just a natural inclination for trainers to try and claim off horses who are high up the weights in races. So the booking of Brogan very much catches the eye, but the way he's performed has caught the eye as well. He possibly should have won that Welsh Champion Hurdle, didn't get a great ride, got caught behind horses. He then set the record straight in really good fashion. I know he only beat that mare of Michael Scudamore, but the way he did it was really impressive. He conceded the head start by some way and cut him down. And then he tried to pull off the same tactics against that doughty Huey Morrison front runner who just kept galloping and getting away from him. But Buzz did about all he could to finish a clear second. He made up loads of ground on the winner, and I'm expecting a similar performance. We'll see him bang there. Firms will be offering advantageous place terms. I'm sure there'll be 6 places in with some. There'll definitely be 5. There's no doubt about that with some firms. And I just see him very hard to kick out of the 5, considering how well he travels. Just see him sauntering out the back, and it should be a well-run race. I'm not actually the opinion that you want to be held up a lot at Newbury. I mean, we've seen plenty of these races that have been dominated by horses ridden prominently, but he's got a good turn of foot and he travels, so it's not like he'll be under pressure to get into it. I think he'll do most of his running on the bridle, and because the ground isn't bottomless, he's an ex-flat horse. He can use that obvious turn of pace he's got, hopefully, to try and settle it late on, but I'll be very, very disappointed, very shocked, whichever emotion you want, if he isn't in the first handful, because he looks absolutely tailor-made for a Betfair Hurdle, the way he's been running and progressing this season. And he's not out of the question. If you win this off 152, he's probably going to have to run to a mark of about 160 to do it. It's not a million that he puts himself in outside of contention for something like a Champion Hurdle or something at Aintree later on. But that would be my idea. Perhaps we've gone mad and we shouldn't be trying to back winners in races as hot as those, but we're going to get a price about both. And then we've got 2 shorter ones for Saturday. But as I always say, and thanks to Kieran before we go, but as I always say, whether you're backing what we are, very best of luck this weekend, whatever you choose to do, and enjoy it. It should be absolutely brilliant.